Hi, I'm Brett and welcome back to Self-Reliance Australia. So last Sunday morning we woke up and found the sheep were missing. They were not in our paddocks anymore and they had broken through our fence actually and gone into the neighbour's place. So not the best thing for neighbourly relations to wake up and find someone else's sheep in your paddock. So it's something I had to fix and quickly. So this is just a short video on what I did and how I got around doing it. The weather wasn't great, so it was actually a fairly quick fix. So I hope you enjoy it. So let's get into it. So we do have some sheep, and last weekend they all got together and came up with a cunning plan to escape from the property, and they did that by breaking through the fence into our neighbour's paddock. So the grass on the other side is obviously greener because it always is greener on the other side. But you can see there as we pan around, you can see where they've broken through there. Look, it's only been a couple of days, I think maybe 1 or 2 days. Despite the fact that we do have a fairly decent paddock where they do normally eat from, you can see that's the paddock. It's a decent sized paddock. But look, the grass is fairly short because we've had a very cold and wet winter, so the grass hasn't grown a lot. And you can see the wind in the background there. But you can also see the length of the grass on the neighbour's paddock, so it is quite a bit longer. And they decided that that was much tastier and obviously much nicer to eat. So they busted through in that particular spot. Now the fencing was old there, and I think there was some horses in the paddock previously on the other side, and they probably haven't helped because they sometimes lean against it and snap the old wire as it gets rusted. So what I had was an old roll of wire. Now you may remember from the first video I did on the shed, I talked about removing a section of fencing, and that wire is from that fence. So I'm reusing it essentially, and you can see here where it's actually got some wool from the sheep. So the type of sheep we have are self-shearing sheep, so the wool basically pops off of them, and they do that by rubbing themselves up against the wire, and they're called witter poles. So I have reused it, so I had no cost as far as the fencing material goes, which was actually very good. But on the end of each horizontal strain I had an overlap of wire, and I just started at the top, wrapped it around the post so I could get sort of an anchor, and then I was able to then put a staple nail in, which then pulled the wire into the fence, so you can see the staple nail there. And I just worked my way down the post, put the wire around, pulled it in, put a staple nail on, which then just anchored it to the post, and that then allowed me to roll the wire out quite easily down for the section of the fencing that needed to be fixed. Now I did do it very quickly because you're going to see in a second that the weather was really windy. So that was the same morning that I was down in the paddock. You can see the trees being blown around, and that's the noise from the wind. It sounded like a jet engine coming through in some points. It was really bad, so it was really uncomfortable to be out there, so I wanted to get out of it as quickly as I could. But as I've gone through, you can see how it's anchored there. It's a little bit messy, but as I said, I just wanted to fix the problem and get out. So I wasn't trying to win any garden award competition. I just had to fix the problem. And you can see here as it goes down past the metal star picket there that it hasn't been wired on, and I probably will go back at a later stage and wire that on, but it's fairly secure at the moment. But I obviously couldn't nail a staple nail into the wire picket, but you can see here on the wooden post I've put the staple nails into the post on most of the horizontal strains, and I've gone all the way down to the end. Now you can see that roll of wire still sitting on the ground, and it actually is still there. So I could have made a big job out of it and pulled the old wire off and then cut and measured and done all that sort of stuff, but as you saw, the weather was rather uncomfortable, and I did want to get the job done quickly and get out of that wind. So will I go back and cut it up or cut that wire off and reuse that roll? Absolutely I will. I will tidy that up and neaten that off and wrap the wire around the existing fence that's there. And I'll be able to reuse that roll of wire for another job down the track, because there are other spots on that fence that may need replacing and repairing into the future. So look, in the end it was quite a quick fix, and I was really happy with the way it came up, but I was more happy to get out of the wind, and also knowing that I'd fix the problem so the sheep can't get out anymore. So there you go. It was a reasonably quick fix in the end. Look, I know I could have made a big job out of it by pulling the old fencing down and putting whole new fencing up, but one thing I have learned from being out on property is that there's a lot more costs involved than what you might initially expect. And you really do need to maximize all the things that you have around and have available to you, which is why when I pulled off the old fencing from where I put the shed up, and you might remember from that first video, I talked about, taking the fence down. I actually rolled the wiring up, knowing that at some stage I may need that on the property somewhere again. And as it happens, 12 months later, I did. So you do need to really maximize what you have, the resources that you have around you. So look, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a big thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and little bell so you can get all the notifications. And if you do enjoy it, please share it with your friends. Until next time, see you then.